Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-5000. The entity itself isn't all that scary, but it has many stories to tell. So very many. See, SCP-5000 is a non-functional mechanical suit known as an absolute exclusion harness. It was designed by the SCP Foundation, but not this SCP Foundation. Somehow it made its way into our dimension, or whatever the dimension the folks writing the entry originated in, containing the corpse of Pietro Wilson. Pietro is a Foundation employee and also very much so alive in the case of the Foundation that's writing this entry. So what happened here? Through some sneaky research and observation of files within the suit, Foundation folks were able to piece together what happened, and the story is not a happy one. In fact, it's quite terrifying, especially if you consider that it happened in a dimension not unlike our own. The logs begin with other Pietro explaining that he's probably the only one left. What does that mean? How did he escape with one of these crazy suits? Well, soon we learn exactly what's going on. The SCP Foundation has decided to exterminate the human race. Their objective has switched from secure, contain, protect to annihilate all humans. Immediately after making their once secret presence known, they went on the offensive, using all the anomalies at their disposal to make this task a little easier. And Pietro is essentially a wayward wanderer, bearing witness to all this madness. As he makes his way through the rapidly disintegrating world, his absolute exclusion harness makes it so that nobody will see him. The suit makes it impossible for any outside influence to observe him or the device. Super helpful when you're in a world being dominated by a ruthless organization, filled to the brim with deadly monsters. Like, get this. Pietro writes down all the different tales of the Foundation letting loose anomalies on the general public. They widely distribute photographs of 096 and then let it run free. They detonate nukes on 196's back, causing it to stir, which results in massive earthquakes and tsunamis. Mr. Deeds, the magic butler, is called upon to assassinate all sorts of folks. The flesh that hates is spread about in major city centers, and 682 is just straight up released. Not good. Just about every horrific thing they worked so hard to avoid is now just happening at large, all with the ultimate goal of wiping humans off the face of the earth. And Pietro, our faithful narrator, is just wandering the wastes, unable to be perceived, but seeing it all happen in real time. If that's not the scariest possible SCP story, then we might have reached a point where it could actually happen.
In at 4, SCP-173. Now right off the bat, I'll say this. This video is fake, 100% fake. Nothing about this is real, but it's creepy. It's never not creepy, purely because SCP-173 is just simply terrifying to look at. Plain and simple. Now 173's description is odd and its origins unknown, but here's what is stated on its wiki website. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within direct line of sight, but if line of sight is broken, even via blinking, 173 will attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull. Yeah, brutal. Now, this video uploaded by Sammy Whiteley is pure excellence. They animated 173, and that's it. It's just 173. However, while watching, you're almost too afraid to blink, just in case it jumps out of your screen and snaps your neck. I didn't risk it, will you? In at 3, SCP-049. Also known as the Plague Doctor, this SCP is described as being a humanoid entity, approximately 1.9 meters in height, and bears the appearance of a Plague Doctor. Now, although it appears to be robes the creature is wearing, over time the garments seem to have grown out of its own body. It is capable of speech, being knowledgeable in a variety of different languages, and is capable of death by touching those around it, causing all of their bodily functions to cease. However, it is known to be quite cordial. In this video in question, we see what appears to be the Plague Doctor roaming around a riverbank before slowly walking away and out of sight. The video is short, but is creepy nonetheless. Where is it going? Why is it there? Is it looking to kill? I guess we'll never know. Coming in at number 2, SCP-173. Again. Now, this is slightly cheating, I know, but it's hard to find videos of SCP creatures out there. You know they're locked up, right? Well, this is another very well made video of SCP-173, uploaded to YouTube by David Anatoly. The video begins with a man waking up on the floor outside before entering a building where he finds a piece of paper on the ground. It shows a picture of SCP-173 as well as gives a brief description of the creature. The man blinks and before him stands 173. He blinks again, it gets closer. He then starts running through the building in an attempt to lose sight of the creature. But take a look what happens for yourself. I don't want to ruin it all for you. And finally, in at number 1, SCP-087. SCP-087 is simply an unlit platform staircase. Yep, stairs, specifically stairs descending on a 38-degree angle for 13 steps before reaching a semicircular platform of approximately 3 meters in diameter, according to the SCP Wiki. There is no light present on the staircase, as light sources brighter than 75 watts have been known to be absorbed by SCP-087. Previous reports have stated distressed sounds from a child on the staircase. However, descending the staircase doesn't bring you any closer to the sounds, it just remains, no nearer or farther away from your location at any time while on the stairs. Now, in one particular video uploaded to YouTube, a person can be seen wandering around in the dark in what appears to be a basement or the ground floor of a building. All I know is there's stairs somewhere in there. I saw them. I'm sure there's stairs there. At one point, a set of eyes can be seen, clearly visible from within the dark depths. Now, whether this is real or just a prank, it's probably a prank, this video is truly chilling. Take a look. Well, there we have it. Were these SCPs creepy enough for you? Are there any that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. I'll be reading out some of my favorites in an upcoming video. If you're a fan of this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.
Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-2678. This one is known as the Vor Hole. Let that sink in for a second. Interestingly enough, this SCP is no longer available on the wiki proper. You have to find the archived page to read about the Vor Hole. The current 2678 is a strange copy of an empty cathedral with an organ sitting in the middle, but the original is much, much stranger. Hopefully I don't cause any problems by bringing the OG Vor Hole back into the public eye. Ready for some weirdness? Because I'm not. So if you're driving around the southeastern states, you might find some telltale signs of this SCP. Billboards on the highway will suddenly display new advertisements, ones for places, products, or experiences that don't exist. However, the legitimacy of the ads doesn't really matter, as anyone who sees one will be compelled to pull over and get out of their car in order to search for SCP-2678. Near these billboards will be a busted up old structure, maybe an abandoned roadside motel or a shack from the pre-highway days. Either way, the billboard sighters will feel like they have to enter this space and will find some sort of entrance. The entrance acts as an access point to a spatial distortion which leads to SCP-2678. Folks will then find themselves in a big, weird cathedral of sorts, full of caustic air that quickly degrades any and all biological material. In the center of the room, there is a pit, and at the bottom of this pit, there is some sort of entity. People are drawn towards this hole, throw themselves in, and then are swallowed whole by the creature in there. Yikes. To make matters even weirder, folks affected by this tend to express odd increases in body temperature and libido. So they get all riled up and then they get swallowed whole by a monster. I guess that's what some people are into, but to be forced off the highway and lured into something's belly doesn't exactly sound like a rational choice. There's a quasi-religious and pretty cult-like organization that supports this anomaly, and they believe that if enough people are consumed by the thing in the hole, their goals will be completed. So extra creepy, extra weird. For now, just avoid tourist traps altogether. It's never worth it anyways. This way you avoid spending any money on cheap trinkets, and you also don't get drawn into a weird cult consumption craze. Coming in at number 4, we've got the End of Death. There's a strange fixation on death throughout the SCP Wiki. I suppose humans exist to prolong their own lives and prevent our species from ever dying out. The ultimate fear in the back of people's minds is their own death and the inability to stop it, mostly anyways. So it makes sense that there are so many different SCPs directly linked to death. One extra secret SCP details the discovery that after dying we still retain some semblance of consciousness, forced to feel our bodies decompose in the darkness long after we're buried. Another one looks at how the linear, progressive passage of time is actually an anomaly and has caused billions of deaths. No stopping that. But what if death didn't happen? Or rather, couldn't? Welcome to the End of Death Hub. This is a whole separate canon within the SCP Wiki. Plenty of contributors have added to this particular horror story, one in which the entire observable world ceases to experience the effects of death. Immortality is forced upon all life without any other biological change. At first, this doesn't sound so bad, right? Death is scary. We don't want our loved ones to die. We don't want to die ourselves. The other side of that river Styx is unknown and therefore horrifying. So eternal life would be pretty sweet, no? Well, actually, it would be a total nightmare. Death is essential for life to continue. It's natural, it's needed. Without death, many things would be unable to change, unable to grow, and more. Overpopulation quickly becomes a major issue in this sprawling story as organizations and individuals alike seek out ways to keep the growth of everything under control. Also keep in mind that free from death does not mean free from pain and suffering. If you run out of food or experience major bodily trauma, you won't die and just be free from that suffering. Instead, you'll feel it more intensely than previously thought possible. And for longer too. That starvation feeling will never disappear. Those fatal injuries will plague you. Not fun. So if you really want a truly scary SCP story, check out the End of Death Hub. Pick through a few entries and see how awful life without death could truly be. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-4000. Listen carefully to this story, because if you mess any of the rules up, you could find yourself in a world of hurt. SCP-4000 is a very strange case. It's a forested land only accessible through weird ritual. Those who do complete the tasks required to travel here show up in a well and must walk down a path until they loop back to the start. During these walks, they will encounter all sorts of anomalous creatures. The creatures that live here come in all shapes and sizes and often undergo horrible mutations. Unfortunately, they're not huge fans of being mutated and can get pretty upset about it. Here's where the rules start to kick in. Do not call anything by a consistent name. Don't answer to a consistent name. Accept any gifts presented to you, but don't use or consume them. And if a ghost tells you that it's not a creature, listen to what it says. Follow these to a T and you might just make it out unscathed. But if you goof up and call something a consistent name, you might end up experiencing some really strange stuff. Creatures from SCP-4000 could appear to you in the real world as terrible hallucinations, or maybe not as hallucinations. Yikes. See, names are powerful things. They anchor a person or thing to their identity. But if we're to believe the stories of SCP-4000, the inhabitants of this world are Fae, banished here without any names or titles. If you give one of these things your name, they might just take it, and from there it can only go downhill. You could find yourself mutating, shifting, or changing without knowledge of why, just like a certain scholar, but we won't talk too much about him here. Coming at number 2, we've got SCP-1782. At first, this anomaly appears to be an abandoned apartment in Kiev that is constantly changing. Every few days, it instantaneously changes its appearance and contents. Often these things can be quite gross, quite macabre. One famous instance of this is when it was found to be full of birds and there was an old man inside feeding himself to them. The manifestations found in the apartment often point towards the toilet in the back. Further investigation shows that there's some weird stuff consistently back there. An odd dude with a TV camera showed some Foundation staff that there was a horrific cross between a human skeleton and a septic tank hidden back there. Even stranger, a fetus would appear in the toilet from time to time. It has been said that this fetus would have been a reality bender, but its mother didn't carry it to term. This angered it, and it now changes the observable reality within the apartment. However, it does so with a partially developed brain, leading to unexpected and often incomprehensible results. Nobody's been inside the apartment since, with the Foundation preferring to explore it using drones. Even then, the tales people tell of this apartment are so hard to parse, who knows what's really going on in there. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-5999. This is an absolute gem of a story. In fact, there are many stories threaded throughout. There's the story of the cursed video game, Prodigy Priest King, which sends all who play it into an obsessive quasi-religious furor. Nobody survives playing the game, although the results are always a little different. There are the anomalous remains of a Miss Jacqueline Holcroft that seem to haunt all those who encounter them through auditory and visual hallucinations. Those who read far enough might find loose teeth in their drawers or corpses in places they shouldn't be. There's a town in Kansas chock full of ghastly apparitions and MTF-destroying ghouls. People fall through the earth and later reappear to torment their kin. So many things happen throughout the many 5999 entries, all hidden behind major security clearance barriers, but if you make it through, blowing out the candles one by one, you might find that the chains are weakening. This means you're closer to the whole story, but also much closer to danger. Do you dare read the whole thing, or will you just take my word that it's scary and live your life without that? Some chilling stories for these chilly nights. What could be better, right? Well, the way some of these tales end, I'm sure you'd rather they didn't exist in the first place, but hey.
In at 5, SCP-096. A humanoid creature approximately 2.38 meters in height, with very little muscle mass and mild malnutrition is how SCP-096 is described on its wiki website. Its jaw can open 4 times that of an average human, and is described as extremely docile. The creature is also described as incredibly dangerous and will kill before returning to its docile state. It is contained in a 5x5x5 airtight steel cube, and no video surveillance is authorized. However, one video shows otherwise. In a black and white surveillance video uploaded to YouTube, a humanoid figure can be seen sitting on a bed in a dreary dark room. It does nothing but rock backwards and forwards continuously before laying in a fetal position on the bed. The video jumps between the creature standing, rocking, crawling, and then it disappears altogether before the bed flies across the room without any warning. Now, though labelled as SCP-096, it is unconfirmed if this is the real creature in question. What do you guys think?
Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-919. Mirror images and doppelgangers are a staple of mythology across the world. There's nothing creepier than coming across someone who is exactly like you, but separate from you. It's unsettling, uncanny, and unpleasant. Naturally, folks have some reservations about mirrors as well. If the person on the other side started acting out of turn, what are you supposed to do with that information? Just pretend it didn't happen, or walk around the rest of your life with the knowledge that there is some other version of you trapped in a reflective surface, in all reflective surfaces? If you agree that mirrors can be truly creepy under the right circumstances, SCP-919 is gonna weird you right out. It seems to be a full-length mirror in excellent condition. However, if somebody stands in front of it for more than 15 seconds, their reflection will break synchronization and act of its own accord. It will beg the person not to leave, which is fraught with implications. This mirror person will seem to be totally autonomous and fully self-aware. Its memories will be the same as whoever it's reflecting, but it also knows that if the person leaves, it will cease to exist. If said person moves to a spot where the reflection is no longer visible, their reflection will scream and disintegrate. Sounds painful. Worse yet, if the person returns to the mirror, their reflection will also return, and then also seemingly have knowledge that their doppelganger knowingly let them experience that disintegrating agony. Continued exposure to this mirror has been proven to be detrimental to subjects' mental health. Seeing yourself beg for your life and then hearing your own screams of agony as your double disintegrates will do that to a person. All in all, it's a good thing that the Foundation keeps this hidden away from the public. Here's something even weirder. If the original subject dies while in front of the mirror image does not perish. In fact, it'll request that you leave the body behind so that it can continue to exist. But once the corpse is cleared, the disintegration will happen anyways. Grim. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-1728, Headless Butterman. Need I say more? Probably not, but I will anyways. This greasy, dairy-filled freak is a very weird case indeed. See, it's a headless humanoid without the ability to speak, but it can still perceive and interact with the world around it as any other human might. It's got the mind of a child and is able to write, using this ability to communicate with the Foundation personnel. Pretty weird so far, but that is just the beginning. SCP-1728 is constantly exuding a substance chemically identical to unsalted butter from its skin. If you wipe it away, more will be produced. This makes SCP-1728 very slippery. The butter will stay on its body until it brushes up against something, and the butter will wipe off onto that object. And at the ends of its fingers, it has hollow bone points that also exude butter. These can be used to write using the butter and as low-pressure butter jets. Now, Butterman doesn't like being in containment. He used to have a cast iron knife that didn't slip from his grip, but the Foundation has locked it away. So Butterman does his best to avoid being contained, and the slipperiness helps him a lot with this goal. He can squeeze out of most restraints thanks to the butter, and can even slide around at speeds up to 34 kilometers per hour. It's like a butter frozone. For now, the Foundation has a series of procedures that seem to be able to keep 1728 in place. Cold helps to keep him still, and for whatever reason, polyurethane works better than all sorts of other materials at preventing slippage. Personally, I would be stoked to have a butter-producing friend, but he did stab a person before being contained, so it might not be a healthy friendship. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-093. Now here is another SCP involving the misuse of mirrors. That's not all that's notable here, but it seemed right to mention it. While the SCP itself isn't a monster, if used correctly, it opens a gate to a world filled with some of the scariest monsters this side of 682. 093 is a disc carved from a material resembling cinnabar, covered in strange symbols. It will change colors based on whoever's holding it, although it's not really really known what each color means at this time. The thing wants to be on a mirror, and if you place it somewhere that isn't reflective, it will roll until it finds its way onto a shinier surface. At that point, if somebody makes contact with the disc, they will begin to move into the mirrored surface, and if allowed to continue through, will find themselves in a brand new place. Depending on the color of the disc, the subject will end up somewhere different. In the alternate world, something has gone terribly wrong. Folks have discovered that a hyper-religious sect took over for a while, and a new godlike being began rewarding those it considered clean of sin. In order to fight a holy war against some really horrifying beasts, the godlike entity granted humans some wicked technological advances, ones that ran on a strange religious substance known as his tears. Unfortunately, this substance also had great corruptive power, and turned a lot of folks into the very monsters they set out to purify. The unclean, giant humanoids cut off at the legs. They crawl around absorbing people into their bodies, and really that's just the beginning of it. Thankfully, the Foundation has the disc contained, so hopefully nobody's making any unintended round trips into this alternate world. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-504. Remember that movie, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? Well, these are definitely one type of killer tomato. They look and smell and taste just like normal tomatoes, and if, nobody ever made a bad joke, they'd actually be indistinguishable from your garden variety fruit. But terrible humor is a hallmark of humanity, and therefore these tomatoes are deadly. Anytime a bad joke is made in the vicinity of one of these tomatoes, they instantly accelerate to a speed of at least 100 miles per hour towards the source of the sound. That is one quick sandwich ingredient. It doesn't matter what condition the fruits are in. You can have them sliced, whole, smashed, etc., but the pieces will go flying towards that joke, and the results are messy. A nice mix of blood and ketchup, and sometimes it's hard to tell apart. Apparently, the harder the person telling the joke is trying to be funny, the faster the tomatoes will move. So leave your worst, best joke in the comments, and we'll see if any of these tomatoes come flying in for revenge.